webinar, Mr. Siddharth, esteemed guests from industry, Mr. Blockchain Incorporation, Mr. Sunil Subramaniam, Head of Business Strategy, IDC Corporation Incorporation, and in a different time zone, from different time zone of US, Mr. Rishabh Verma, co-founder of Zupal Lab, esteemed uh, participants from various units of DOT, TEC, units LSAs, PSUs, BSNL, MTNL, CDOT, TCIL, ITI, and different other ministries. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning and a very warm welcome to each one of you to this highly contemporary webinar on blockchain technology and its applications. Friends, you all know that this is a very advanced technology topic, and it is very contemporary for all of us to discuss this. In this digital age where innovation and technological advancements shape our daily lives, blockchain stands out as a transformative force that has disrupted traditional system and revolutionized various industries. Its impact has been felt far and wide, and today we come together to unravel the mysteries behind this groundbreaking technology. Dear participants, this webinar serves as a platform for us to navigate the complexities of blockchain, understand its underlying principles, and witness the real world applications that are reshaping sectors such as finance, healthcare, supply chain management, and especially in our own domain, that is telecom. We are very lucky that we will have the privilege of listening from esteemed experts and thought leaders who will share their profound insights and experience in harnessing the power of blockchain. As we embark on this journey of this webinar, it is crucial to recognize the immense potential of blockchain technology from its ability to ensure transparency, security, and immutability in transactions to its potential to streamline processes, eliminate intermediaries, and foster trust in decentralized systems. Blockchain has the power to redefine the way we conduct business and interact with one another. I'd like to express my heartfelt gratitude to our distinguished speakers who have generously shared their time and expertise to enlighten us on the intricacies of blockchain technologies. I extend my sincere appreciation to each and every participant joining us today. Dear participants, your presence signifies your curiosity, your thirst for knowledge, and your commitment to staying at the forefront of technological advancements. By coming together as a curious community, we foster an environment of collaboration and learning that propels us forward. Dear participants, you all are aware that National Institute for Policy Research, Innovation and Training, it's a premium training institute of Government of India in telecom domain. It is a central recognized by Department of Personal Training, DOPT, and it has always been our endeavor to share the technology and the knowledge about the latest emerging technologies. And for that, every fortnight, NTI-PRIT organizes a webinar on a contemporary technology topic. And your patronage, dear participants, your patronage to this endeavor of NTI-PRIT has always been very appreciable. It gives us inspiration to keep on organizing such enlightening webinars in future also. Once again, a warm welcome to each one of you. Together, let us unravel the potential of blockchain technology and explore the endless possibilities it holds for our future. May this webinar inspire innovation, inspire curiosity, and inspire innovation in blockchain technology. Thank you very much, and over to you, Mr. Siddharth.
Hello.
Yeah, I think we
Yeah.
lost.
Yeah. Am I audible? Thank. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Atul sir, for the welcome address. Now I invite DG and Head NTI PRIT, Shri Raju Sinha sir, to give inaugural address and announce the webinar open. अच्छा ठीक है सर Uh, dear participants and friends, somehow sir has got disconnected. So we will wait for a minute and we can go ahead with the sessions first. Okay. Sir, you
I
are.
think DG sir, yeah, I mean, I and DG sir are sharing the same thing, same internet. Probably it has got flicked. I have connected on my this one. Let me just try to connect, sir. Go to him, and I'm almost through. I'll just go to DG sir just to check.
Sure.
Uh, sir, you are online now.
There was some net issue.
Sir.
Am I audible?
Sir, yes, sir, you are audible, sir. I invite Sri Raju Sinha, sir, DG and Head NTA PRIT, to give inaugural address and announce this webinar open. Sir.
Sorry for the interruption. Actually, some network issue. Thank you, Siddha. Good morning to all. First of all, I would like to welcome all the participants in the webinar, officers from various units of telecommunication, academia who are practicing blockchains and join the webinar, and my fellow colleague and officers of NTI PRIT. I also welcome learned speaker in the session, Sri Aravind, Sri Sunil of IDS Incorporation, Sri Rishabh Verma and Neil K. Mathis, co-founder of Super. Ladies and gentlemen, as Atul said, NTI PRIT is regularly coming up with webinars on various contemporary topics like 5G, cybersecurity, telecommunications security, IoT, trends in advanced communication, quantum computing, and many more. In this series of webinar on this Wednesday, we are here today to discuss one of the most progressive research topic, which is being practiced also is blockchain technology and its application. Friends, blockchain technology, is a decentralized distributed ledger that stores the record of ownership of digital asset. Any data stored on blockchain is unable to be modified, making the technology a legitimate disruptor for industries like payment, cybersecurity, and healthcare. Blockchain, sometimes referred to as DLT also, distributed ledger technology, makes the history of any digital asset unalterable and transparent through the use of decentralized network and cryptographic hashing. It helps reduce security risk, stamp out fraud, and bring transparency in a scalable way. The year 2000 mark a pivotal point of blockchain as Satoshi Nakamoto, a pseudonym for a person or group publishes Bitcoin peer-to-peer electronic cash system and gave the technology an established model and planned application. So it's blockchain isn't only used for financial transaction. Due to its secure and transparent nature, the technology is versatile to need beyond one area of expertise. Industries covering energy, logistics, education, and many more are utilizing the benefits of blockchain every day. Popularizing by its association with cryptocurrency and NFT, blockchain technology has since evolved to become a management solution, not just a financial transaction, a management solution for all type of global industry. So today, one can find blockchain technology providing transparency for the food supply chain, securing health data, innovating gaming, and overall changing how we handle data and ownership on a large scale. Coming to our own telecommunication industries, telecom service providers, popularly known as TSPs, can leverage smart contracts to automate many tasks and thus significantly improve efficiencies in many legacy systems. Many telco use multiple operational support system, OSS, and business support system, BSS, across different line of businesses, especially with acquisitions. In addition, financial market pressure have led telco to typically underinvest in OSS and BSS platforms. Smart contracts can simplify, optimize, and automate many of these processes. Smart contracts refer towards the blockchain. So it can automate many of these processes, enabling different players in the ecosystem to transact directly with one another, prevent any disputes, and thus lower operational cost while making payment settlements instantaneous. A telecom enterprise can also use blockchain to enable micropayments for music, mobile games, and other services. This is interestingly becoming very popular towards broadband blockchain application. Moreover, blockchain may be implemented for customer-to-customer money transfer services also. Some TSPs offer digital wallets that enable customer-to-customer payments. By employing blockchain to handle the transactions, they make wallet more secure with ID verification. Furthermore, such an approach results in cheaper international remittances, not national only, international remittances, and more swift and convenient transfers, which as a result positively impact the company revenue. So it's an emerging technology and is poised to use in different sector in the coming future, including telecommunication sector. This is becoming popular at a very fast pace, and there are many fields where it can bring revolutionary changes. That's why we thought to have to sit together with all the practitioners in this field and offer a platform through NTF-BID in the form of webinar. So with your feedback after the webinar, we'll try to hit many topics and bring a new thing in the coming future. So before I close, I'm sure this webinar will be highly useful for all the participants from government, industry, and academia. I find perfect combination of speakers, which will make this webinar very, very effective. For all this, I congratulate DDG ICT and his team, their directors, JTOs, who for arranging on such an important topic and making theme and platform today morning available. With this, I declare the webinar open and wish its very good success. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your inaugural address and opening this webinar. You have further set the stage for deliberations in technical sessions. Your blessings will ensure that we will have a very fruitful session further. Dear participants and friends, now we are at the conclusion of this inaugural session. I heartily thank Sri Raju Sinha sir for inaugurating this webinar. I also thank Sri Atul Sinha sir for joining us in this inaugural session. Sir, now with your permission, we can start with the technical session.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dear participants, the first two technical sessions, the first one is introduction of blockchain and the second one is blockchain implementation. And it will be taken by Sri V. Arvind from IDS INC. I'm just sharing my screen to introduce speaker. Let me share. Yeah. Sri Arvind is Vice President, Blockchain Practices and Product at IDS. He's a product leader and solution architect with 10 plus years of experience. He has led 7 plus product grade enterprise blockchain projects and products across various domains like supply chain, trade finance, telecommunication, NFT marketplaces, and metaverse for MNCs and startups. He is subject matter expert and corporate trainer. He has trained 200 plus fintech leaders as part of course accredited by Institute of Banking and Finance Singapore, and more than 1250 plus product leaders, working professionals, educators, and undergrads across US, India, and Singapore. He has expertise in enabling organizations in their blockchain strategy, solution architect, and implementation roadmap and go-to-market. Arvindji, I'm very thankful for you to just acceding to our request for taking these two sessions. I'm hopeful that we will learn this upcoming and emerging technology. With this, I hand over the session to you. You can share your screen and start presenting. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, all the participants, and thank you, Raju Sinha sir, Atul Sinha sir, and special thanks to Siddharth Kumar sir for giving us opportunity to share the kind of experience and expertise we have working on various blockchain applications. And it's an amazing thing to be in these times working on the emerging technology. And especially if you look at the IT and telecom sector, these are two areas or two sectors which are greatly positioned to utilize or leverage this technology in a big way and take the things to next level. So let me kickstart by sharing my screen. So just let me know once you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Arvindji, your screen is visible.
Okay, so thanks Siddharthji for the kind introduction. But I would like to also add a couple of other things. So I work with IDS, Information Data Systems, as a vice president. And I'm also chair for Hyperledger Governance, Risk and Compliance Special Interest Group, which is a global SIG. And we are trying to figure out how blockchain is going to change the way the ecosystems of businesses are governed, and what are the kind of risks and compliance issues associated with it. But along with that, I also led a couple of projects in central bank digital currencies, GRC, but also working with Ministry of Education and AICT to build world's largest educational metaverse by name Polyversity. So you take, I led projects across public blockchains and permissioned blockchains, which I will also talk while I take the session. And for my contributions to Indian blockchain ecosystem, I was also recognized as one of the top 50 blockchain influencers by India Blockchain Forum, uh, where we have leaders coming from policy side and also the technology side. And happy to be youngest to be part of this top 50 influencers. And it's not just about influencers, but it's about the impact. So one of the key thing is the kind of projects which I led helped not only our organization, but also put India on a global map. Indeed, the Polyversity metaverse, which we are building now, is featured across Singapore, UK newspapers, being one of the kind of initiatives. So I think India in Web3 and Industry 4.0 is leading by example. And I think if I listen to the Raju Sinha sir being a I mean the lead of telecommunications, the kind of insights he has on the emerging technology blockchain uh, made me think, yes, I think this is where the government, industry, and also academia is closely working, and I think this is where the future of Indian industry is. And if you look at again the company, we are one of the 18 Hyperledger certified service providers. And also we are a system integrator with Hedera Hashgraph, implementation partner with Polygon, and DevShop partner with Near. So these are all the top protocols or blockchain protocols with whom we are closely working and delivered multiple enterprise blockchain applications. And I think as Raju Sinha sir highlighted, blockchain is not just fintech, blockchain is not just cryptocurrencies. Indeed, it has taken its form into both financial and non-financial sectors. And I think it also has put some public blockchain use cases, but also permissioned blockchain or enterprise blockchain, which can be comfortably used by businesses without using or touching the concept of cryptocurrency. So the beauty is you can build enterprise blockchain applications without touching cryptocurrency, and you can still leverage the capabilities of the technology. I think in that context, we also saw very recently RBI launching its e-rupee, the central bank digital currency, which is again one of the amazing examples of leveraging DLT, that is distributed ledger technology like blockchain, but doesn't involve any cryptocurrency as such. So I think as we deep dive today, let me quickly kickstart my first presentation for today. I mean, you can call it masterclass or a webinar or whatever. It's on blockchain technology applications, but also opportunities. So I thought I'll add one more line to it, because though blockchain disrupts some of the existing business models, still it opens up much broader opportunities. And I think that is the kind of mindset with which we need to look at this technology. And if we look at the presentation outline, the agenda for this presentation, first I will talk about what is the essential understanding of blockchain, emergence of blockchain, and then what are the 9 building blocks of blockchain. And then I'll talk about the concepts of distributed ledger and decentralized networks. And then we'll kickstart understanding Ethereum ecosystem, which has smart contract functionality and how they are applied. But also I'll talk about a little bit about Bitcoin, because Bitcoin as a cryptocurrency brought the concept of blockchain first. I mean, there are many other protocols which came eventually to add more capabilities. So I will talk about that after this presentation. So let's kickstart with this presentation now. So we'll just ask very basic foundational questions. Why blockchain? Now, for someone who is listening to the blockchain word for the first time, or who are not so clear on what are the implications of it, let me tell you, if someone asks you why blockchain, basically it can be called as a trust machine. Why do you call it a trust machine? And what is its implications? Let's go a little bit. Now, today we know as governments and businesses across the world are increasingly becoming digital, the need for trust on the data and verifiability of the data has become an imperative. Because today, as per ISACA, every minute, every minute, 4 cyber attacks happen. So just imagine the kind of the value of the data got exploded, and the kind of attacks on the system, I mean, attacks on the legacy systems are also growing exponentially. And I think we need to change the way we govern the IT systems and the way we architect the IT systems, so that we can make them robust enough and we can create trust to the users with respect to data authenticity, data verifiability, and data integrity. So these are very key words which are mostly repeated in blockchain literature. So if you carefully observe data integrity, data authenticity, data immutability, data permanence, data verifiability. At the end of the day, it all revolves around data and making sure the data integrity is assured. And another interesting capability, again, as highlighted in the welcome note, blockchain brings this unique capability called as data immutability. That means once you have data on blockchain, it's committed to the ledger database, it is immutable. Of course, there is a small star on top of it, which I'll talk later. Conditions apply, but still, that is one of the amazing capability for which people look at blockchain. But other than that, there is also other interesting thing which is happening with blockchain, the governance. Today, if you carefully observe, most of the IT applications we use are governed by a centralized authority or a centralized organization which manages the governance of that particular IT application or system. But what happened is, as businesses expanded, business today is not just within the organization. Businesses today is a ecosystem play. That means businesses are closely working with other businesses, and as a whole ecosystem, they are continuously interacting, and there is a lot of data which gets shared across the multiple stakeholders. Now, what has happened today is when a stakeholder is sharing some data with other stakeholder in an ecosystem, there is no trust. Let me put it other way around. There is no digital trust. In the sense, you need a trusted third party to make sure the data integrity is assured while it is being shared. And wherever there are multiple intermediaries come in between, obviously, there is a cost overload, time overload, and there are a lot of other reconciliation and operational overheads which we see. But the beauty of blockchain is it has the capability, or it gives the capability of distributed governance. That means multiple stakeholders can maintain computing systems or nodes to this network. Okay. And all these nodes can come into consensus.
Hello, Arvindji. Sorry to interrupt you. I think the slides are not moving. Are you on first slide only, or you have moved to the
Yes,
second?
yes. I'm on the first slide only. So
Oh,
I'm just highlighting the second point. Yeah. So I'm good. So I'm just highlighting, I'm going little deeper into it. That's it. Okay. So what I'm saying is blockchain is promising because it has this capability called as consensus driven distributed ledger. That means multiple stakeholders in the system can commonly agree on something and they commit the data to the system so that everyone has single version of truth. And this is something which is unprecedented because the previous legacy systems are more clustered kind of systems where you have a trusted third party and you have all the stakeholders interacting with each other. But with blockchain, it creates a level playing field so that all the stakeholders are on single page. So that is why blockchain, because everyone has single version of truth, obviously it enhances the trust in the system. And that is why blockchain is called as trust machine. And it facilitates it facilitates digital trust. And of course, this is what disrupted most of the business models. And it also created certain disruptions, which the following speakers will be talking about. But now let me ask the next question. What is blockchain? Now, sometimes if someone asks why blockchain, you can say it is trust machine. You can enhance trust by creating a single version of truth across multiple stakeholders. But if someone asks what is blockchain, little deeper, the answer is it is internet of value. Now, what is internet of value? It is the next iteration of internet or web, what we call as Web3 as well. But let me put it other way around. Then what is the internet which we are using today? The internet which we are using today is internet of information. Now, let me give you a simple example. Once upon a time, say 1990s, even before computers, if I want to share some information with someone, I need to write a letter. I need to take it to a postal system. to make sure it reaches to the receiver. Now, what happened here? The postal system is acting as a trusted third party through which I'm routing my information. But what happened with the internet? Internet is a open network which is owned by everyone, and I can just send a mail on an open network to the other person. So what internet facilitated is peer-to-peer exchange of information in past. But now with blockchain, the internet is taking a stride to new era, which got started in 2008, called Internet of Value. Anything of value, okay, anything of value can be represented as an asset on this blockchain network, and people can do transactions without involving the intermediaries or traditional intermediaries. Now, let me give you the first example, Bitcoin. Now, what is Bitcoin? Now, before going to Bitcoin, let me ask, without involving your banks or wallets like Paytm or PhonePe or Google Pay, without involving the banks or fintech players or the central bank issued currency, before 2008, you can't do a digital transaction. Any transaction should get routed through your banks. I mean, I'm talking about digital transactions. Cash to cash transactions are, again, you can do peer to peer transactions, but digitally, without involving a intermediary called as bank, I can't do a transaction. But what happened with Bitcoin? Bitcoin is again a network where public maintains the nodes, and all these nodes maintain a ledger currency called cryptocurrency, and people can do peer-to-peer exchange of value. But eventually we saw the concept of tokenization. Okay, I'm getting you, I mean, I will elaborate on the terms I'm using later, but I'm getting you accustomed with the terms. One important aspect is Internet of Value. Second, it facilitates transactions. Third, what kind of transactions? Any transaction of anything of value. What is that anything of value? It can be a cryptocurrency, it can be a token, it can be a university certificate, it can be a vaccine certificate, it can be a land record, it can be anything of value. The beauty of blockchain is it can facilitate transactions on anything of value without involving intermediaries. So blockchain simulates a trusted third party, the network itself simulates a trusted third party to make sure the transaction is executed without ambiguity and without any fail of transaction integrity. And another important point, again, as I highlighted, initially it caught up with fintech, but eventually it went to non-fintech. Let's go a little further again. Now let me ask, what is blockchain in a technology perspective? So this is the next logical question, right? So blockchain is technically a distributed ledger governed by a peer-to-peer network. So I will explain what is this distributed ledger and peer-to-peer network in the coming slides. But as a definition, blockchain is distributed ledger governed by a peer-to-peer network. This is the definition technically. Second, data integrity is a value proposition of blockchain. That means no one can tamper the data. Third, blockchain is confluence of three technology concepts: cryptography, game theory, and distributed computing. So these are three concepts which are applied together to make blockchain possible. So blockchain as a technology didn't come out of thin air suddenly. It is evolution of multiple fields like cryptography, game theory, and distributed computing, and a convergence happened between these three fields, which gave rise to blockchain. And by now, the people who are listening to this blockchain for the first time, you might be wondering, Arvind, you are using the word blockchain, blockchain, blockchain. But what is this block? What is this chain? And what does that block contain? Right, this is the logical question again. Now, to elaborate on that, in the previous slide, I told you blockchain facilitates transactions. What kind of transactions? Any asset transactions. Okay, it can be anything. But if transactions are happening, then block is nothing but a pool of transactions happened on the network, committed to the network for a given time slot. Okay, so what is a block? Block is a set of transactions happening on the network between the people, between the users for a given time slot. And in that time slot, whatever transactions get committed, it's created as a block. So block is a pool of transactions. Now tell me another important point. If you take any ledger which deals with transactions, all the transactions should be chronologically placed. That means transaction 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so on. You can't jumble up the transactions. Now to give you a simple example, take your account statement, bank account statement. Can a bank account statement jumble up all the transactions you did, or will it put the transactions in a chronological order? You can give your answer in the chat. Should it be jumbled up or should be in chronological order? Obviously, it should be in chronological order with timestamp. So similarly, this time slot called block time, which can be 4 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, few seconds also, which is defined by the network. And this block is connected to the next block and next block, so on. So as and when there are new transactions coming, new blocks get created, and all these blocks are chronologically connected with each other. That means block 1 at timestamp X, block 2 at timestamp X plus block time, block 3, block 4, block 5. And that is what chain is all about. So each block is connected to its previous block using a concept called as hash pointer. Okay, which again I'll explain deeper later, but the term is hash pointer. So blocks are digitally interlinked with each other. That is why it is called as chain. Now, another important aspect is this blockchain is like it can have a length, indefinite length. As more and more transactions happen on the network, the ledger expands, and it creates a long ledger. And the beauty is blockchain also has another important capability called as smart contract. Now, what is smart contract? Smart contract is an self-executable business logic which automates the transactions, or it can trigger a transaction automatically based on a business logic you write. Now, say for example, I have lended some money to someone else, and after 30 days, after 30 days, obviously, like I need to get some interest, and I'll put some escrow mechanism logic in it, and they will put a collateral. And if the lender pays me back, the smart contract will release the collateral. If they don't pay back, the collateral will be liquidated or sold, and I will get my money, and any balance left will be settled to the the borrower. Or let's say, take another example. Imagine I have a business partner. Okay, I have a business partner, and two of us have decided that any profit coming or any revenue coming in, okay, will be having a split of 30-70. Now I will write the smart contract logic and I will deploy it behind my application, and whatever payments I receive automatically gets settled or split with 30% and 70% to respective wallets. Again, these are very simple applications which I am saying, but the most complicated use cases are built on top of it. Like say trade finance, invoice financing, okay, supply chain finance, or you can take invoice discounting in supply chain management, or you can also take a university certificate being issued automatically once there are enough transcripts. Now we are also exploring certain use case with as per new education policy, where student based choice based degree, right? So say there are multiple credits which a student captures from multiple academic institutions, and all these credentials are collated, and automatically a degree certificate is issued with a consensus of all the multiple academic partners involved. I'm not talking telecom use cases because the next speaker is anyways bringing Sunil is bringing certain telecom use cases. So that's why I'm giving very generic examples. So the important point is smart contract is a self-executable business logic with which transactions can be triggered automatically. So blockchain also has a component of automation. That's why it brings operational efficiencies. Now, as I promised in the previous slide, I told you I will explain distributed ledger and peer-to-peer network. So now let me talk about peer-to-peer network. Now, if you carefully observe with respect to IT systems, there are three topologies. Okay, topology one is centralized IT system, second is distributed IT system, and third is decentralized IT system. So let me explain all these three, and I'll tell you blockchain uses which one. Okay, so if you look at centralized IT system, a centralized IT system is like Facebook, Google, or Amazon, Netflix. They have huge centralized IT infrastructure which they control, and all the data, user data is with them under their control. To give you an example, if you take Facebook, imagine Facebook deleted your account, or blocked your account. What happens? You can't access your data. Though you are owner of the data, you can't access it. Why? Because the infrastructure is under their control, and the data ownership is yours, but data control is with them, right? So that is how centralized IT systems work. And this centralized IT system has an admin who governs this IT system. And if you take distributed IT system, you can take cloud, AWS, for example. Amazon Web Services has around 40, 45 plus data centers across the world. So it's more like a distributed infrastructure, but also they have a centralized or at the central point, a central control tower through which they manage all this distributed infrastructure. Now, what happens here is, if you take the centralized IT system, distributed IT architecture, there is an admin who manages this, and whatever happens with this distributed sub nodes, okay, they need to reconcile what has happened with them to the centralized system. Now, let me give you another example. Let's take a traditional banking application like NEFT application, right? Now, RBI manages or NPCI manages the centralized IT system, okay? And all the banks are interconnected to this centralized centralized node or the master node, and they reconcile all the interbank transactions happening every day. Or you can also take, if you take the telecom example, you have a host network and you have a visitor network, and there is a data clearance house, DCH, the intermediary, who reconciles the call records in the case of disputes and act as a trusted third party. So you take any industry, there are trusted third parties and distributed kind of IT architectures available. But now the IT systems are evolving or have evolved to new architecture called as decentralized IT systems. Now, let me ask one important question. You all know an admin can change the data and make sure that system looks intact because the trust is on admin. Today, one of the key thing is in centralized IT system or distributed IT system, the trust is on the admin and the governance of the IT system. It's not protocol driven or it's not digitally driven. Second, in this centralized system and distributed system, you have a single point of failure. That means if this centralized IT system is attacked or if this master node is attacked, the data is vulnerable. So there can be an insider attack or there can be an external attack. So that is why the centralized systems and distributed systems are vulnerable. But now let's look at the architecture of a peer-to-peer network or a decentralized network. This is the architecture. Now here, all the nodes are equal. I mean, all the nodes have equal privileges. That's why it's a peer-to-peer network. And the control is not with central point, rather it is distributed to all. That's why it is called as a decentralized network. And another important thing is, if all the nodes and there is no leader, if all the nodes are equal and there is no leader node, now who will govern this network? Any guess? A protocol will govern this network. Please understand that. That is very important. A blockchain network or a decentralized network is governed by a protocol. All the rules and logic of all these nodes to follow is everything is codified. That means there cannot be an insider attack in a blockchain network because everything is protocol driven. And the protocol is also, the code is reviewed by a community of developers and it's an open source thing. Anyone can review. That means there can't be a code line which has some vulnerability and it goes into protocol. It can't happen. And another interesting thing is, if you want to attack this blockchain network, you need to attack more than 51% of the nodes. Now, why? I'll tell you. If you take centralized IT system and distributed system, the master node or the central node has the master data. I mean, the data finality, the data of finality. But if you take blockchain, all the nodes in the network have the same copy of ledger with all the data or all the transactional data. That means all the nodes in the network are in sync with each other and everyone has single version of truth stored. Now in that context, now tell me, even if I attack one of the node, all other nodes are still intact. And because every change in the database can happen only when all the nodes in the network agree, unless until consensus happens, a change in one node will not impact the database of all other nodes. That is why blockchains are more robust compared to centralized and distributed IT systems. So 51% attack. So you might have heard, hey, this blockchain network got hacked or that blockchain network hacked. That means a 51% attack might have happened. And always remember, if there are 10 nodes, if 6 nodes get impacted, then the network is impacted. Because majority, it is like democracy. Okay, majority of the people, whatever copy they hold, that becomes the truth. So till 51% of the network is compromised, blockchain is intact. But if you take centralized IT systems and distributed systems, even if 1% of the data is compromised, as a whole, the system is compromised. But in blockchain, it has more tolerance or attack resistance compared to the other two systems. So this is what I think I can discuss in brief. And this is what a peer-to-peer network benefits are. One, attack resistant. Second, consensus driven. Third, distributed governance. Fourth, protocol driven, not admin driven. And these are certain differences which brings blockchain certain capabilities. I hope the peer-to-peer network concept is clear. And any questions, please feel comfortable to put in the chat. And once I complete the presentations, I will address them. Okay. Next, Ledger. Now, what is Ledger? If you take the traditional centralized IT system, there is only one server which is maintaining the database. But if you take blockchain, because it has multiple nodes and all these nodes maintain one copy of the ledger, it is called as a distributed ledger. And all the nodes are in sync with each other. Everyone has the single version of truth. Now tell me, I hope you understood this definition of blockchain as distributed ledger governed by a peer-to-peer network. Because that, so with respect to database, it is distributed ledger. With respect to network, it's a peer-to-peer infrastructure. Now, another interesting thing is, if these nodes are maintained by public, it is called as public blockchain. And if these nodes are maintained by a specific group of organizations, it is called as permissioned blockchain. In a permissioned blockchain, say, for example, supply chain. Now, in a supply chain, the distributor, the wholesale, the manufacturer, the suppliers, the distributor, wholesaler, retailer. So these are the stakeholders only who create a enterprise blockchain network, which is accessible only by them. But if you take public blockchains like say Bitcoin, Ethereum, Polygon, or Near protocol, these protocols are public. That means anyone can maintain a node, anyone can do transactions on top of it. Okay, so this is the difference between public blockchain and private blockchain or permissioned blockchain. Okay, clear? So that means even governments, telecom. Now, to give you one example in telecom sector, let me give you one interesting public blockchain use case of telecom. There is this network called Helium. What Helium network does is it has a LoRaWAN node. So LoRaWAN node, you know, it has a range of around 20 to 40 kilometers as a max. Now, what public did in, I think in South America region is, rather than leveraging the telecom network, which is centralized and licensed by only few players, they created a LoRaWAN network, which is managed by public. And if a call gets routed through their nodes, then all that nodes will get tokens as a way for incentivizing the infrastructure they maintained. So that means in future, a telecom network also can be decentralized. It can be a public network driven, where public will maintain nodes at their houses, small nodes, which has some range of limited range. But a swarm of these particular nodes can create a wide area coverage, and public uses it, public earns from it. Then what happens to the telecom players? Any idea? The point is, they need to move from consumer services to enterprise services, because the same blockchain technology can, or the same 5G or these technologies have certain enterprise use cases in manufacturing sector, supply chain, IoT. So there are many other broader use cases which they can focus on, and the consumer services, there may be depletion of their business. But fine, I think telecom have been evolving from a communication service provider to a data service provider. And in future, it will do something else, which Sunil will be talking soon. But I want to highlight that blockchain can bring disruptive business models and can shift the business models to altogether new level. Because multiple stakeholders can now have digital trust without relying on a regulator or a trusted third party or an intermediary. And always remember, again, people sometimes say that regulation is important, but let me tell you, and people say that public blockchain do not have regulation and all. Let me tell you, public blockchain has regulation in the form of code, that is protocol. But if the protocol is being misused or the usages is being misused, then that's a different story. But the point is, any blockchain network has a self-regulating protocol which defines what all rules with which all these nodes in the network will operate with. So the future of regulation is also codified. So that means tomorrow the role of regulation or regulators will become like, oh, okay, you have a blockchain network, it's okay, you are good. But for the benefit of all the stakeholders, the protocol should have certain checks and balances. So the nature of regulation is also becoming digital. Okay. Now, let me come to emergence of blockchain. If you carefully observe, we are in industry 4.0. Now, in each era of industry, we have seen the focus of IT industry. I mean, with IT was evolving. Now, if you look at industry 1.0, somewhere in 1960s, 70s, the prime focus of IT or the computer scientists was to increase the volume of data. And that is why IBM, Intel, and most of the early chip makers, they focused on increasing the capability or volume of the data. But once that is slowly achieved, the personal computer era came. And in Industry 2.0, slowly the internet came. Like, okay, I have one system, I have another system. I want to transfer data from this system to this system, internet. And the focus was this in Industry 2.0 is velocity of data or velocity of data. That means at what speeds I can share that or transfer the data. That is when we saw the TCP/IP, World Wide Web and all. But as internet speeds went up and the applications went up, we saw Industry 3.0 where the cloud infrastructure facilitated apps to be deployed at scale and varieties of data got created, right? We saw the rise of big data, right? What is big data? We have huge volumes of data in the form of video, audio, images, everything. So the Industry 3.0 focus was on variety of data. And how do I do data analytics, data visualization, business analytics, predictive analytics? We saw the AI, machine learning and things which kickstarted in its very early stages. And we saw Industry 3.0. But now we are in Industry 4.0. And one of the very critical thing what we all need or crave as an industry is data veracity and data ownership. Veracity of data means integrity of the data. How assured that my data's integrity is assured? How sure that whatever I have credentials is verifiable? And how am I making sure that my personal data or my personal identifiable information data or my assets, my data is not misused by my service provider and they're not selling it without my notice? And that is why if you carefully observe any blockchain application uses the word called as wallet. But if you look at all the Web2 applications, I mean the previous era application like Facebook, Gmail, YouTube and all, account. See, what is the difference between account and wallet? If you can understand this difference, you will know the significance of blockchain. What is that? If you take an account is way for you to access your data, but the data lies with the service provider. But if you take blockchain, wallet means the data is owned by the wallet and only the service provider is accessing it with your permission. And tomorrow you shift your service provider, your data comes with you. Amazing, right? So the power of blockchain is not just in this disintermediation, immutability, transactions, cryptocurrency, trading, speculation. No, that's not the big picture. The big picture is now users can own and control their data, and service provider without the consent of the user cannot use it. So data ownership. And that is why sometimes I love the concept of blockchain and I'm building my career in blockchain because blockchain puts the power of data ownership in the hands of general public. And they can also make money if they want, if they choose to, by sharing their data with various service providers and commercializing it. So that way, I feel blockchain brings the democratization of IT systems and democratization of the data ownership, which is very necessary today because the value of data has increased exponentially and everyone's attention time in the internet has its own value proposition. So that is something which I like and that should happen at scale. So last but not least, if you look at a value of a data depends on its availability, accessibility, analytics, and authenticity. Okay, so some of you might be also thinking, okay, I have AI, blockchain, cloud, IoT. There are many technologies. How blockchain fits in? The beauty is, while AI focuses on analytics of blockchain, analytics of data, IoT focuses on capturing the data through sensors. And cloud focuses on facilitating a flexible, elastic infrastructure, and blockchain focuses on integrity of the data. So the beauty is A, B, C, D, AI, blockchain, cloud, and digital twin or IoT. They all are complementary technologies which together can bring broader applications and broader impact. So the future of Industry 4.0 is at the intersection or convergence of AI, blockchain, cloud, and digital twin. And today we are seeing another E, extended reality, that is AR and VR. And IDS is continuously building these capabilities: AI, blockchain, cloud, digital twin, and extended reality. And this is where future lies. And blockchain is going to play an amazing, vital role. And it is going to bring a foundational layer which makes sure that data authenticity is assured, and then it is consumed. It is consumed by other systems. Now imagine I have ChatGPT, the most sophisticated AI engine in the world. But if I feed data which is not authentic, whatever might be the outputs it gives or whatever might be the predictions it gives, it is not accurate. But imagine there is a data coming from blockchain and all the stakeholders, relevant stakeholders have come into consensus and they committed something to it. Then it is much better than a data coming from a single source rather than a consensus driven source. So that way, blockchain, I mean, it's time for blockchain. And by 2025, as per Gartner or Ernst & Young and all the World Economic Forum, 2025 year is the year of mass adoption of blockchain and DLT. And that's why across every industry, there is a lot of pilots, production grade deployments are happening, and use cases are being explored and experimented. So now let's look at the building blocks of blockchain. Okay, so Siddharth, how much time do I have?
Arvind ji, now this session is scheduled in next 5 minutes. So 12:15 is the time. Next session will
Okay.
start at 12:15. Yes.
Okay. So please extend it till 12:20. Okay. So
Sure. We
I'll
can
take a couple of 5 to 10 minutes
yes.
more. Okay. And then I'll conclude this in a good way. So now coming to building blocks of blockchain. Okay. Now that we have limited time. See, I mean, there's lots of volumes to talk about blockchain, but I'm trying to best to scope it down so that you get the glimpse of it. So if you look at the building blocks of blockchain, transactions is first building block. Ledgers, second building block. Peer-to-peer network, third. Distributed ledger, fourth. Hash chain, fifth. Consensus and incentive mechanism, sixth. And immutable data, seventh. And smart contracts is 8, and trust and transparency is 9. If you can understand all these dots or all the key concepts, then blockchain, I mean, you're good position to understand the essential understanding of blockchain. Okay, so let me quickly skim through. 1, blockchain is used only when multiple stakeholders are involved, because blockchain fundamentally deals with transaction. When you use the word transaction, that means there is a party, a giving party and a receiving party, or an issuing authority and a receiving authority, or a issuing authority or a verifier. So you have two stakeholders but multiple. As the number of stakeholders increases, blockchain usability and the viability of blockchain increases. So blockchain basically deals with multiple stakeholder engagements, and they govern the ownership of assets and set organizational boundaries, and they establish identities, and also it captures all the transactional events happening between these stakeholders in an immutable way. Okay, so what is the first foundational building block? Transactions. Second, ledger. Now you might worry, or you might think, why are we using the word ledger? Why can't we use a traditional RDMS database? The point is, when you're dealing with transactions, you should have ledger database to be used, not like a traditional relational database. Because if you take relational databases, it supports CRUD operations: create, update, create, read, update, delete. But if you take a ledger database, always remember, it doesn't support update, it doesn't support delete. Can you go to your bank account statement and delete or update some transactions? Definitely no, right? So similarly, any blockchain, because it is dealing with transactions, ledger database should be used with supports only create or read. Okay. And another interesting thing is, if this ledger is managed by a centralized authority, then the admin can change it without notice of others. Whether they change it or not is a different story, but they can. Now, to avoid that, we are moving from centralized to decentralized. It can be a trust gap, or it can be an operational overhead. It can be for disintermediation, or it can be to minimize the reconciliation efforts. So there are multiple reasons for which people go, but predominantly when you have a trust gap in an ecosystem, or there is no trusted third party in an ecosystem, then mostly blockchain is being used. And as I already highlighted, blockchain facilitates peer-to-peer infrastructure where each stakeholder maintains the nodes. And because each stakeholder maintains the nodes, all the nodes or the users who have wallets associated with the stakeholders can do transactions, and all the transactions are processed by all the nodes. Every node will give a go ahead, consensus happens, and a block of transactions gets committed to the ledger. So now how these blocks are connected with each other? Each block is connected to other block using a cryptographic hash pointer. Okay, so this I'll show you a quick demo. Okay. So hope you are able to see the screen. So see here, block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4, and block 5. Okay, and these are all transactions. And these are hash values. Hash is basically a digest. Okay, digest in the sense, when you give a input some data to a hash function, it will generate a unique fingerprint or digital fingerprint. Like how I am unique with my fingerprint, every data will have a unique fingerprint called hash. And hash is unique. Now the point is, each block has its own hash value, and the next block will copy the hash of its previous block. See here, 00008 CCB is here. And you can see here 2994, here also 2994. That means every block points to previous block, taking hash as a reference. Now, why am I talking this? Because all these blocks are connected with each other. And the point is, now imagine I'm a hacker. I want to manipulate this. Instead of 5, I want to make it 50. What happened? The message signature is nothing but the, okay, I'm not going so deep. A message signature is the authentication given by the sender. Okay, this is the sender address. And see here, immediately that whole block turned red. Why did it turn red? Because the moment this got changed, the hash got changed, and all the next blocks were not able to refer. That means any little change in the ledger database immediately breaks the chain. So blockchain uses very sophisticated cryptographic functions like hashing and message signatures, so that any manipulation, immediately the chain gets broken, and immediately protocol will identify it and it will reject that transaction. And because and all other copies are good, only this copy got hacked. Okay, and this node will refresh its copy with what other peers are having, and comes to reconciles and comes into consensus and comes into sync. So this is how blockchain protects itself from any tampering using hash pointers. And another interesting thing is, you might think blockchain network doesn't have a leader node. No, that's not the case again. For every block of transactions to be committed to the ledger, there is a democracy kind of thing in blockchain. There is a consensus mechanism because of which one of the node will become the leader for a time slot, and it will create the block, broadcast to everyone. Everyone will verify it, and everyone will agree to it, and they'll commit to their local copy. So that means in a blockchain, all the nodes in the network will participate in the consensus, and one of the node will become the leader and creates the block and sends it. And if it is accepted by everyone, that node gets a reward in the form of cryptocurrency. This is for public blockchain. For private blockchain, it uses different consensus mechanisms like proof of authority, raft, or proof of stake. So it is a different thing. It's a deeper concept. But public blockchains have a different incentive mechanism and consensus mechanism, and permissioned blockchain has different consensus mechanism and incentive mechanism. For permissioned blockchains, the incentive is the operational efficiency, the automation, the time saved, the working hours saved. Okay, but for public blockchain, the incentive is in the form of cryptocurrencies. Okay, and important point, if someone says blockchain is not hackable, please tell them that in nature, any system is breakable, but how tough is the question. See, human evolved from millions of years. Still coronavirus came, we are broken. So similarly, blockchain is robust compared to centralized and distributed systems. But blockchain also has a vulnerability. What is that? 51% attack. Then you might ask, how should I make a blockchain more robust? With respect to public blockchain or permissioned blockchain, as the size of the network grows, 51% attack becomes more tough. Now let me give you example of Bitcoin network, which has 100,000 plus nodes. Now, if you want to attack a Bitcoin network, you need to attack more than 51,000 nodes. Think 51,000 nodes within the 10-minute time slot. That is block time. Ethereum has around 30,000 nodes. You need to attack 15,001 nodes within that 2 seconds time slot. That is a block time. So the toughness of or robustness of blockchain increases as the size of the network increases. That is why, as the size of the network increases, okay, the value of the cryptocurrency of the network also increases because there is more trust to do transactions on top of it. And last, smart contract. So as I already told you, every business transaction has some contractual logic. Now, all that contracts which we share in paper and then do transactions can be codified and automated using blockchain smart contracts, and blockchain facilitates automation. And last but not the least, because blockchain facilitates single version of truth across the stakeholders, trust and transparency automatically flourishes, and the ecosystem which is using blockchain automatically flourishes because users have increased trust. And that is why blockchain is one of the distributed ledger technology. Okay, so all blockchains are DLTs, but not all DLTs are blockchains. Okay, there are other DLTs like Hashgraph, DAG, but blockchain is one of the DLT. And what are the properties of DLTs? It's distributed, it's immutable, timestamped, unanimous, means all the nodes agree to a valid transaction, anonymous, especially with respect to public blockchains, there is no KYC to create a wallet. So that's why it is pseudo-anonymous or anonymous. It is secure and it is programmable through smart contracts. So that's all from my side. So in the interest of time, I'm not talking much on the smart contracts, but sir, we'll take a couple of questions. Yeah.
So मेरे वो PC में original Windows में बता रहा ना original वो Excel वैसे हो गए थे.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Arvind ji, for such a nice presentation. We have been introduced to the world of blockchain. You have defined it in simple words, its implementations, and also the opportunities and its core values, what it brings to the technology. So, Arvindji, we will take up the questions in the question answer session.
Okay.
People may ask in the chat, and we will take up at the end of the webinar.
Okay,
So,
okay.
thank you very much.
Yeah.
Participants going forward, I will invite Sri Sunil Subramaniam to take session on blockchain in telecommunication. I will introduce the speaker and then hand over the session to him. Yeah. Friends, Sri Sunil Subramaniam is head business strategy and partnership in Ideas INC. He is heading. He is previously associated with KPMG Digital Strategy and Advisory Services. He has over 8+ years of experience in telecommunication and IT industry with key focus on business strategy and data analytics. He is a certified data management professional from Data Management Association and certified in blockchain essentials from IBM. Sunil is a keynote speaker at various forums like AICTE, TSK, Andhra Pradesh State Skill Development Corporations, to name a few. He has published multiple research papers in reputed index journals and presented papers in reputed institutes, including IISc Bangalore. Sunilji, thank you for acceding to our request. I will request you now to share your screen and start your presentation.
Okay. Thank you very much, Siddharthji, for the kind introduction. And a very good afternoon to all the participants, respected Raju Sinha sir, Atul Sinha sir, and Siddharthji from National Institute. So my name is Sunil, and I am very happy to take a session in this webinar on the topic blockchain for telecommunications. Let me know if you can see my screen, which is shared. And is it visible?
Yes, Sunilji, it's visible.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, thank you. So, yes. So all the participants, people on the webinar. So I hope you have got a basic, in fact, a detailed understanding of what is blockchain and how the blockchain has evolved and what is the basic difference between blockchain and Bitcoin, that is the cryptocurrency, in the previous session by my colleague, Mr. Arvind. Right? I will be very sure that you have now got a basic idea of the technological background of what and how the blockchain is enabling different industry bodies. Now we'll see how blockchain as a technology can revolutionize or even at least bring certain benefits for our telecommunication sector. When I say our telecommunication, because I am from a telecom background. I did my MBA in telecom management from Symbiosis, Pune, and I have worked with 28 plus telecommunication operators across the globe till date, directly and indirectly, both. Right? I have traveled to multiple countries and I worked with Kenya, Indonesia, Mauritius, Dubai, right? All in the both Southeast Asian region as well as African region, majorly in the Middle East as well on the telecommunication. So wherever I go, okay, while I interact with the leadership and the management of telecommunication operator, there are three top factors, three major things that these communication service providers or CSPs, right, are looking at. First thing is obviously, which is the next generation of the technology, right? The heart of every telecom, that is 4G, 5G, 6G, 7G, you name the evolution of the next generation technology. That is the first top priority. The second is artificial intelligence, machine learning, and the data aspect, that is on the data side, and AI ML capturing the data for well-being of automation. All these things are the second. And the third important priority that they are looking at is what we are speaking now, that is blockchain. So blockchain is one of the important strategic priority area for telecommunications majorly across the globe. So when I say telecommunication, it's not just only the CSP, but also on the other way around, the regulatory bodies like TRAI, right? Telecom Regulatory Authority Institute, Bahrain regulation, and communication regulation in Botswana. These people are also looking at blockchain, okay, for leveraging its benefits. So what is the impact today with the telecommunication sector, especially in the digitalization? That is, we have seen an unstoppable data explosion. You all agree with me with the advent of the data that we are today consuming day in, day out, right? Gone are those days when we used to recharge our phone for GB or 3 GB data. Everyone today is enjoying a spree of unlimited data, yes, right? And free voice calling. There is no limit on the calls, unlimited calls. There is no local STD, nothing. All these have been out of the market now. It's everywhere, unlimited voice calling. Yes. So the services are being bundled for customer retention. So this is a change that we have seen for in the past 6 to 7 years closely, that we have observed that in the good olden days of our telecommunications, we used to have the bundling, yes, that are there with the package restricted to the voice and SMS service. Yes. So there will be some certain pools of data, certain pools, some limit on the SMS, 100 SMS per day, and these many minutes of voice calling. So that kind of bundling of the telecom services is something we looked in the earlier. Now the bundling is completely with respect to the data services, Netflix, Amazon Prime, the OTT bundling, right? Video calling services, additional international roaming packs. So the customers are demanding for more amount of service bundling in a single package. So whether I am taking a 499 pack or a 699 pack or 999, whatever the denomination is, the amount of data that I'm being used in this, along with voice calling, SMS, and other traditional services, this kind of services bundling has been the norm for today, because of which there is a shift in the revenue also, right? Obviously. So initially the telecom operators used to earn from the voice, SMS, and data services, but today they are collaborating. Today the phone is not just limited to one single thing, right? So the phone in our hand today is used for multiple purposes. We are paying through our phones. 10 years ago, I still remember in our college when somebody was coming and telling that we are going to scan a code and pay through our phones directly from our bank account. We didn't believe. I mean, it's beyond our imagination during those days. And we were surprised and laughing at those incidents, telling that, hey, come on, no, how can it happen? I mean, how bank can, but today, everybody embracing and envisaging the benefit of UPIs, right? We are using OTT on our phone. We are using all the value added services. Yes. And we are using IPTV, Dish TV, everything, all the channels of the satellite box, we are watching on our phones. So the phone and the mobile device in our hand today is not just restricted to voice and messaging services. So in this entire communication business dynamic shift from a traditional service provider to the current new age digital service provider, right? So there are a lot of challenges that are being faced. So there is a inability of the legacy business systems, as rightly mentioned in the welcome note by Honorable DG Sir, right? Raju Sinha ji, that all the OSS and BSS infrastructures are now coping to support the new digital services. Okay, all the operation support systems and business support systems, whether it is Ericsson, Huawei, Jetty, all the from the network angle, switch, okay, and mediations, and to the business support systems of the billing system, CRM, right, HLR, VLR, all the network, the entire systems current are working in silos. That means if you see the CRM data is not shared, the billing data is isolated, the mediation is isolated, and from the switch, the integration is still happening through a ERP, and all the data is being looked in a data warehouse at the end of the day, right? I hope you are all able to relate to this networking topic. I mean, as I come from a telecom background and the audience, so these network related systems and the OSS BSS systems are dependent heavily on the third party systems, especially the TSP, and because of which revenue leakage is happening and a lot of data privacy concerns are also being envisaged. So you understand, wherever we have money, that means revenue or the amount of money, obviously disputes arise when settling these transactions and agreements. So with the increase in the number of partners for a telco today is not just restricting to, that's what we discussed, right? Everywhere telecommunications is required for as a backend for seamless communication, whether in the form of a Wi-Fi or a mobile data, 5G, 6G, anything. So with the increase in the number of partners, these challenges are posing the telecommunications to switch and make the new technology, okay, as a benefit to address these challenges, right? So we'll see how blockchain is actually addressing these challenges and enabling the telecoms across the globe, okay, to optimize revenue, optimize the resources, and also optimize the costs involved in maintaining and benefiting these third party. Okay, now blockchain as a solution for telcos, it enables zero touch reconciliation, which means when you say a call detail record, that is our CDRs, regular CDRs, every record, if it get updated across the nodes maintained by a stakeholders, whether it is an Ericsson switch or a mediation, so the same CDR is being broadcasted across the network. So which will enable a automatic reconciliation of the data. Now you can ask me, so why there is a need for maintaining additional nodes while we are also having a centralized repository of Ericsson switch at our within our data center? Maybe let's say take a telecom operator, Airtel, BSNL, Vodafone, whatever it is. Now you might have understood the property of decentralization and the distributed network in the previous session by Arvind, that this gives an additional trust, right, to the entire stakeholders participating in the network, that this CDR is a genuinely broadcasted on the network and it's not a duplicate one, or it is not having a immutable, alternative data which is being tampered. So because as this is on a blockchain, that enables a zero touch reconciliation. Also, effective partner management. So Arvind discussed about smart contract, right? Which is a self-executable business logic. So when we say, while the telecom is having partnerships with multiple stakeholders rising from healthcare, distribution, manufacturing, retail, pharmaceuticals, across all these industries, all these partners needs to be managed with the agreements. Yes, they all will agree on certain contracts. So all these smart contracts, if they are put it on top of a blockchain, so it facilitates near real-time updates whenever the contract is nearing the expiry, because all the contracts are being maintained on a permission blockchain between the telecom operator as well as the third party vendor. Yes. So along with this very important aspect, as I mentioned, while I was working on a consultation paper for TRAI, okay, and also the Communication Authority of Bahrain and Botswana, a strong regulatory compliance mechanism is also being enabled by blockchain technology, because the trust factor that is there in the entire ecosystem, because what is happening eventually, we all know, right? The AGR, that is adjusted gross revenue, that every telecom operator needs to report to the regulatory body. right? As per the regulatory requirements, each and every telecom operator in the respective countries, not just restricted to India, but Malaysia, Singapore, Philippines, right? Africa, Botswana. So they report. But what is the genuinity that this is the revenue I'm getting actually from interconnect? This is the revenue that I am actually, it's being reported by postpaid, prepaid. And this is the revenue that they are generating from any other fixed assets that they have outside. So those kind of audit papers which are being reported to the regulatory mechanism are actually being assured on a blockchain, which is equally maintained on a distributed network. So a strong compliance is being facilitated for all these regulatory body. So even the standards like GDPR, right? General Data Protection, Regulatory Protections. So these GDPR, all these data privacy and data security aspects are also being recognized and realized through the benefits of this blockchain technology. Right. So there are companies, we'll see in the coming present. I'll show what are all the areas that telecom operators across the globe and India are also working on certain use cases, right? But to an extent, we'll see what are all the top use cases or the top areas where telecom can benefit from blockchain. These are the possible scenarios because these are all the things where telecom operators across the globe are actually making pilots and proof of concepts to actually visualize the benefit. The one thing is roaming management. Yes, we will see how it is in detail. Partner settlement that we discussed, the executing smart contracts. Yes, and customer onboarding, that is the digital identity. When I say digital identity, even you can take Aadhaar, okay, based authentication that telecom service providers are today leveraging completely. So what if a centralized server of Aadhaar is hacked? I can see some of the comment that in the chat that we have a strong backup disaster recovery site. Yes, business continuity system. Good. Yes, it is there. But there is an equal possibility of any person inside the organization to actually hack even the backup system. Yes or no? Many people can agree with me because people are having access to a centralized system. Even though it is a backup, even if the main server fails, the backup can also be added. Imagine if you are having the same on a decentralized system distributed across different bodies and only the permissioned network is having the access to the data and other data that is on the other systems, only the hash, that is the address of this data is stored in a cryptographically secured manner. That is where a decentralized identity, that is you are the owners of your data. Nobody can actually go and use your data. So that is where the KYC DID is being used for the using blockchain. We discussed about regulatory assurance. Yes, the audit papers and other consulting papers, everything being put on a blockchain enables further additional layer of trust and security. And yes, even respected Raju Sinha ji also mentioned in this welcome address that fraud management is also very essential use case for blockchain. But we will see how roaming management, especially the roaming, is benefited in today's session. Okay. Now, let's see the roaming use case. That is how the settling is. So in the present scenario, currently, there is a revenue exposure due to clearing house. I'll explain on a brief, maybe some people out of telecom background on a quick way. So eventually, when we say when we are in roaming, that means we are not using our home network for our telecom services. Example, me, Sunil, recently traveled to Mauritius, from there to Dubai, from there to again back to Hyderabad, from there to Delhi. During this travel, wherever I'm landing outside my home network, I am identified as a roaming subscriber. As simple as, okay. Now, while I was roaming in other country or other location outside my home network area, I will be using the services of a visitor network. Okay. So the visitor network and the home network will have a roaming agreement between them. Let's take an example here, Airtel India and MTEL Mauritius. Now both of them have a roaming agreement. Now what happens when me as an Airtel subscriber lands in Mauritius, MTEL, as they are having a roaming agreement, will support me because hey, you are my friend's customer from India. Welcome to Mauritius. I'll support you for the end. So all the international roaming packs or everything is being given and the network infrastructure and the connectivity is being given by the visitor private mobile network, that is VPMN. Now, when this agreement happens or AA14 document, okay, they agree on certain things. Now, all these agreements are being translated with the complexity of volume based, okay, on the number of calls based or number of customers based. A lot of things will be there. Now, to settle, okay, now for Airtel India, is only MTEL Mauritius is the roaming partner? No, they have roaming agreement with Dubai, Do Dubai. They have with Etisalat. They have with Robi Bangladesh. They have with Dialog Sri Lanka. Right? Many. I will not only, I am not the only subscriber traveling to Mauritius, right? Many people will travel like this across the globe and use it. They might use the Airtel network there. Now, all these CDRs will be, that is, when we make calls outside the network, these CDRs are captured by the visiting network, right? And they will reconcile all of these and give in a transfer accounting procedure that we call as tap in, tap out in our telecom terminal to Airtel. Now, when I say when these CDRs are being broadcasted when these CDRs are being transferred from the visiting network to the home network and from the home network to the visiting network, it is practically not easily possible for each and every operator to make this verification. So they are dependent on data clearing house. That is, you can see here, DCH. It is a third party that is coming in between, and they are facilitating the complete reconciliation and complete conversion of all this billing traffic according to the individual subscriptions of these telecom operators, right? So this depend on DCH sometimes is causing roaming settlement disputes. So Airtel will say, no, these are all these many calls are coming. Okay, no, this subscriber I have not even identified coming from Mauritius, or Mauritius MTEL might also say that, no, this is not a genuine subscriber, whatever the dispute that come. So this settling, of course, it will be settled with the existing systems. It will take a lot of time and a lot of effort, money, all these things. It will settle. Imagine if the same scenario when we put on a blockchain. This is a proposed scenario. So implementation of a permissioned blockchain, okay, to replace the conventional ways of sending the CDR. So when I say permissioned blockchain, only the agreed bodies, that is Airtel Do Dubai or Airtel MTEL Mauritius or Airtel Singtel Singapore, the agreed roaming partners will maintain a blockchain network within their premises, so that every time when a new CDR is being generated, okay, so both the parties will have the visibility of that particular data. So the record is broadcasted on the network and there is no fear of fraud and there is no fear of dispute. Yes, this is actually doable, and that it will help more cost savings, and this also does not require any middleman for a reconciliation of the third party. Now you can ask me that, is it possible for all the telecom operators? It depends on the consortium. As rightly mentioned by Arvind in his presentation, more and more players coming into blockchain network, okay, the more trust and security it will facilitate in the network. So the blockchain is always established and looked as a consortium of different bodies coming together to form the network. Then more trust, more visibility, and more security is given and provided to this network. So when these telecom operators as a consortium, now in European Union, they are experimenting. We'll see that. I hope this particular use case is clear from the roaming perspective. Okay, when we broadcast the CDRs of roaming and interconnect settlements on a blockchain, it can remove and it will ensure a smooth settlement transmission between the roaming partners. Okay, fine. So let us look at the global scenario where digital identity verification is the use case that Verizon, Vodafone Global, they are doing currently using blockchain for DID. They are working on a pilot. They are leveraging this benefit. And for mobile number portability, now we all know, right? MNP is there. We can switch the same number from Jio to Airtel, Airtel to BSNL, and all these network, right? So Deutsche Telekom in Germany, South Korea Telecom, these are also experimenting. So when we say if one particular database is not changed with the mobile number portable, let's say the database is not updated or the database is not currently known that this number belongs to Reliance Jio, but some other database is showing no, this is still an Airtel customer. So these kind of mismatches and gaps between these centralized database. So Deutsche Telekom and SK, South Korea Telecom, are using blockchain to actually see the benefit in terms of mobile number portability. And the case which we discussed, right, roaming and settlements, Telefonica, the major telecom group in Europe, Orange Telecom, China Mobile, these telecom operators are using blockchain for roaming and settlement. Primarily, Telefonica is leveraging IBM's. IBM is also supporting for maintaining the interconnects transaction smooth and settle between roaming partners in Europe, right? For that, they are doing this blockchain-based implementation for roaming and interconnect settlements, Telefonica Group. Let us see the Indian scenario also. Even our Reliance Jio is using blockchain. They are implementing blockchain to track and trace the secure supply chain process. So everything is transparent, preventing the counterfeit products, whether it is a SIM cards, whether it is a physical products, that Jio fiber, their routers, everything. They can use the supply chain blockchain on blockchain if they are putting these devices and their IDs and their entire, right from the manufacturing till the distribution of the complete track and trace, they are doing it on blockchain, Reliance Jio. When it comes to Airtel, yes, they are also making into identity verification for using the blockchain that reduces the risk of identity theft. You all know, right? SIM clonings, duplication of the SIM card, or I am taking a SIM card on my friend's number, I am using it. So all these things, they are experimenting the blockchain technology and its relevance for the decentralized identity. And Vodafone Idea is also experimenting MNP in India using the blockchain to enhance the MNP process. So it makes more efficient and secure when it's switching between the network. The user also will be easy, and it will be also easy for the network operators. And Tata Teleservices are leveraging smart contracts, that is blockchain-based self-executable logics for all the agreements, automation of the agreements, right? So Tata Teleservices recently, they are also deploying these fixed lines, right? Intercom and the fixed line networks for DLF, Embassy Group, all these our IT infrastructure in the office premises and a few big hotels. So wherever they are actually having these agreements, whether with respect to the broadband or whether respect to the fixed line, they are all looking to leverage blockchain technology for making them as a smart contracts. So that is where Tata Teleservices is also using blockchain for making more secure contracts. Right. So this is where blockchain as a technology is helping telecommunication service providers, our entire telecommunication industry as a whole, globally and in the Indian market. I hope the use case and these examples are clear for you. And this is it from my end. If you have any questions, my number is there, and you can also mail me on this particular email address. I'll be happy to answer. And you can also give your questions in the chat, and at the end of the presentation, I'll be happy to answer them as well. And I once again thank National Telecom Institute for giving me this opportunity. And yes, thank you very much, Siddharth ji. Over to you.
Thank you very much, Sunil ji, for the wonderful lecture. Yes, we will take the question answers at the end of the session. So without delay, we will start with the next session, which is focusing on implemented use cases in government. And friends, for this, we have Mr. Rishabh Verma, who is co-founder at Zupal Lab. I will share his bio and then start the session. Just a second. Yes, Rishabh Verma is a co-founder at Zupal Labs and leads product strategy and management at Zupal Labs, which is a company based in Bangalore specializing in development of blockchain-based certification and identity solutions. He has done MS in computer engineering from University of Arizona, USA, and specializes in cloud computing, distributed ledger technology, and product management. He has previously worked as product manager at Microsoft Azure, Seattle, USA. At Zupal Labs, Rishabh has been the team lead for India's first and the largest blockchain-based citizen identity management system built for the government of Maharashtra. So I welcome Rishabh Verma ji to take us through this session on use cases which has been implemented by Zupal Labs for various state governments and other government organizations.
Thanks a lot, Siddharth. Hello, team. It's late night for me, but I understand it's afternoon for India time, so good afternoon. Big thank you for giving us this opportunity to present. With further ado, I'd like to share my presentation and take you on a small journey on what we are building at Zupal and some of the projects that we've done. Siddharth, maybe you could give me a thumbs up if the screen is visible. I think you're talking on mute, but looks like it's
yeah, sure. The screen is visible.
Okay, thank you. Thanks a lot. And I'd like to keep my presentation style a bit conversational. I don't have access to the chat while I'm presenting, so if you have questions, feel free to chime in on audio. Otherwise, we'll have to probably wait for queries via email or hopefully in a Q&A session towards the end. Yeah, as Siddharth very clearly showcased a little bit of my background. So I'm the CEO of Zupal Labs. We're a small company. I say small, but we were small 2 years ago. But I think now we've become fairly large as we've progressed organically. And today I want to specifically talk about blockchain implementations that we've done in the Indian public sector. Today, I will not talk about POCs. Today, I will not talk about ideas. Today, I will talk about applications which we've built, which are running in production and being used by public sector customers, private sector customers all across India today. A little bit about Zupal. So we are a company which specializes in development of blockchain applications. I think, saying blockchain applications is a sort of a overblown word, but essentially we are very sort of skilled application developers. My personal strength is sort of expertise in cloud computing. With cloud, you can build anything, right? And blockchain is just a stack. Just like a database, blockchain is just another sort of next level security on a database. Our company is based out of Bangalore. It was founded in 2018, so we're turning 5 very soon. Yeah, we're sort of one of the very few startups in India who are sort of able to acquire government projects through the challenging procurement processes that exist. We've been very lucky to receive global recognition. Here I'm sharing some of the news articles which covered us, but you probably Google about us or our product, you'll see a lot more. We've done some impressive implementations sort of out of the box with some sort of really innovative individuals. So we're very excited to share that today with you. To begin with, I want to highlight our product, which is sort of the core of our success so far. We've built a product called Legit Doc. The name is very intuitive, but essentially, in a very short manner, the name, we very appropriately named Legit Doc. So the goal is to enable digital credentialing and make them tamper-proof. We want to sort of remove fraudulent which comes from digital credentialing identities, and we want to just enable a software which can solve all of that, right? So through Legit Doc, you can issue tamper-proof digital credentials and IDs on blockchain. Any issued credential which goes through our software. So any document that goes through our software, any digital ID that goes through our software, it can be verified instantly from anywhere in the world without sort of a need for a centralized server. All our credentials are user owned, which is just a sort of a convenient way of saying that, hey, if you have access to a PDF document of your driving license, or if you have access to a Word document of your marriage certificate, you can just come and verify it from, without going to the issuer's website, without going to the driving license department's website, and you can verify it with the help of the underlying blockchain from anywhere in the world. And then, I've already made this comment, but we've got like around 12 customers so far. And out of the 12, like majority of them are in the public sector. So I'll talk about that shortly. I don't know if Siddharji allows me to share my deck, but I also have links to my product demo, sample credentials, and an experience of my product embedded in the slides. I'll probably share the PowerPoint with the organizing team, and if they give you access, please feel free to click through each of these credentials as well. One of the best things about our product, which is really appreciated by our customers, is the ease of use. We try to refrain from going into complexity, especially with a stack like blockchain, which is still relatively new in its adoption, right? Why do you want to build a sort of a Titanic ship when you want to start with a very small use case, which what we've tried to do, right? So any sort of documents, credentials which are issued through our platform, they can easily be shared, right? It's a PDF document. It's a Word document. You can share that via email. You can share that via WhatsApp. You can, maybe put it on LinkedIn. If a student has their diploma ID on our platform, they can, they can send in a quick WhatsApp message to their mother, like, "Hey, mother, this is my new education degree," and the mother can instantly verify it just to catch the child if they're saying if they're lying or not, right? So this could be very, this is fundamental in our use case. Another thing, the visual that you see on the left is essentially a glimpse of what a digital credential issued through our platform looks like. Here, what I've done is I've taken a small, I think this is a residential record of in the state of Maharashtra. But essentially, all the content of the document is same what is issued by the government there. But what we've added is this bottom sort of middle QR code and a verify button, right? So if you use your camera on your phone, if it's a printed document, you can use that QR code to verify it directly via the blockchain. Or if if you're using it on WhatsApp, you can click on the verify document button and it will do the verification for you. So that the simplicity is sort of key for what we've built here. On top of that, whoever adopts our product, we give them access to our analytical decision-making dashboard. You can track how many documents you've issued. You can track and trace how many credentials you've issued. You can track and trace the verification frequency of it. You can track and trace sort of any sort of timeline that you want to add as well. Here on the bottom right that you see is an interesting implementation that we did for a specific customer where they wanted a payment integration as well. So for any credentials that came out of their organization, If they wanted to their stakeholders to verify them, they wanted their stakeholders to pay like 10 rupees or something as well. So we can even include payment in a verification process as well. But I just want to give an idea, right? These analytics, these credentialing, this dashboard can change as per use cases. Essentially, what we wanted to show is the flexibility that we provide into the credential issuance and the verification process altogether. I want to start by sort of maybe elaborating how some of our projects are receiving like we're very sort of grateful and humbled by some of the recognition we are getting as well. Our company was featured in the 2023 Best Practices in Social Sector by Niti Aayog. This was the only blockchain project which was mentioned. And you can find us on page 154, where we implemented a blockchain-based caste certification system in the state of Maharashtra. I don't know if if the audience here has probably seen access to it, but this was sort of big on the news. I got to interview with large media companies. But essentially what we did, and I'll describe this in more detail, is we tried to pick up an identity document, a caste certificate for a district, and made them instantaneously verifiable and put them on blockchain, therefore preventing any fraud that occurs behind them. I'll elaborate about this in just a second as well, but I just wanted to show that we've been very grateful to even see recognition by Niti Aayog. And for those who don't know, Niti Aayog sort of visions are essentially adopted all over India, and we've been sort of talking very closely to specific government sectors for exactly just that. Just another sort of harping on traction, right? Like so far, all the customers we've gathered, we've sort of issued 2.4 million credentials and identities through our platform. Some of our key customers include the Maharashtra State Board of Skill Development, BMC, which is Maharashtra's sort of a lot of credentials they issue, including marriage certificates. The District of Gadchiroli, you must have heard about a recent news about Karnataka Skill Development, where we implemented a credential verification system with them as well as sort of large PSU organizations such as Hindustan Petroleum Limited, so HPCL for those who know, for various use cases. But the idea remains the same that we've done with the customer: is any sort of credential that is going outside their organization, we make them tamper-proof, we make them instantaneously verifiable altogether. We are also lucky to have a lot of strategic partners. So we've got Bell Electronics, so Bharat Electronics, which BEL, they're a big major PSU in the defense sector, Upicon in the state of Uttar Pradesh, CRISP from the state of Madhya Pradesh, Polygon, AWS, all who are sort of helping us take our product to the right customers who need it as well. Now, let me elaborate on our projects. I've briefly touched on them, but let me sort of go a little bit more deeper so that you can probably correlate with some sort of use cases in your own department, more specifically in your industry altogether, and try to see how easily we can integrate any sort of relevant use case around credential verification to it. The first one, which I briefly touched upon, the Maharashtra State Board of Skill Development. This was a customer whom we issued around 1 million diploma certificates. In a nutshell, this is an organization where students go and they do some sort of course and they get a certificate of completing that courses. I have a case study slide on this particular implementation as well, so I'll probably hold on sharing more information, but this was a very fantastic use case that really got us visible into the market and helped us achieve more customers. KSDC is exactly the same. So again, rather than diploma certificates, here we are doing skill certificates. So again, same idea, blockchain powered documents being verified by the stakeholders from anywhere around the world. Now going to some, switching gears a little bit, right? Like I touched upon HPCL. Now with HPCL, what we did is we implemented our product into their purchase order and licensing software. So essentially HPCL, they issue purchase orders to vendors to almost like 20,000 crores or some really large number like that annually, right? These purchase orders, once they're given to their vendors, they're forged. People claim to be HPCL's vendors when they're not. People claim to have HPCL's licenses when they don't, and the entire process was just a mess. Right, they really needed a source of truth, an authentication process, and HPCL was spending so much time and money on creating sort of manual offices which did the verification, right? So people were literally sitting next to a phone. Whenever they'd get a call, they would match an ID and say, yes, yeah, document is authentic, or this document is not authentic. So it was really interesting to do that, and we were very lucky to have that opportunity as well. And then, of course, the project which got focused, which got featured in the Niti Aayog annual report, which was the caste certificate implementation, right? So this was the first Indian state to issue caste certificates on blockchain, and now we're sort of in conversations with multiple other states to do the same. And I think the last one I'll touch upon is BMC. BMC, frankly speaking, even I learned it recently, but they are sort of the largest credential issuing authority in the state of Maharashtra. On the left, what you see is basically a small document around occupation verification and sort of a building certificate verification process and the sort of the details for that. But essentially, we are in sort of on the verge of making this product live. But we've basically taken 14 different types of certifications and put them on blockchain so that all of BMC stakeholders can easily verify. One of the easiest examples I can give you here is a marriage certificate. So if you get married in the state of Maharashtra, which I think I might, you will get a document issued by our software, which will be verifiable and sort of simply, you can share it easily and you know that it can never be tampered with. Yeah, so allow me to elaborate on a case study, right? And this is where I'd like the audience to focus very closely on how you can relate it to your specific use case and come to us and help us define and make your specific office adopt this product, right? This is the lowest hanging fruit of a blockchain product that you can adopt. Number one, I think, if you talk about the client in this case study, the client was the State Board of Skill Development, which is a massive organization. Right, Maharashtra itself, the population is so high. Imagine the number of people coming and trying to get those diploma certificates. It was huge, right? Like 1 million plus verifiable diploma certificates, which we issued in just 1 year totally, right? Every year they have 1 million plus people come in and essentially request for these diploma certificates, documents which are very valuable, right? These people go and do jobs afterwards. Their job HR departments require verification of those credentials. Now, rather than having an entire manual toil around it, they can just press a button and see if what the candidate is sharing is authentic or not. Right. When we implemented this was the world's largest public blockchain implementation for the education credentialing. So that is huge, and I'm very proud. Even though I have been educated in the US, I'm very proud to have this implementation done in India, which is something that's really close to my heart as well. And then the last point I'll make here is the amount of time humans spent on verifying such credentials, right? The amount of time humans or us citizens in India spend time on verification of any document is huge, because there's maybe automation is missing. Maybe the office that you're trying to verify it, has a large backlog and their customer support is not responsive. Maybe they're not responding on the email very quickly. But with our software, you can just do that, automate it, simplify, save time, money, cost for all stakeholders involved. Now, just shifting gears a little bit, I think I've talked a lot about document issuance, document verification, document preventing fraud on any sort of digital credentialing. But let me just talk about identity management a little bit, because that too is something that falls under our core business. The identity management software that we built was, we started off as an incubation project for, again, government of Maharashtra for one particular district. But we received so much sort of interest in it from public sector organizations that we are implementing versions of it in different sectors as well. So allow me to just elaborate on what we did here, and I encourage everybody to connect the dots in their own organizations as well. Firstly, I think if I may just give a little background. So District of Gadchiroli currently has 12 lakh citizens who are basically, all their records are being tracked and traced on a very simple computer database, which is very inaccessible, and there is an overall lack of application, automation available to them. With our software, what we did is we created digital identities for each of these individuals, helped them get an Aadhaar card KYC altogether, and essentially took records of those identities and sort of stored them on a blockchain, which is controlled only by the District of Gadchiroli. So this is a private blockchain implementation. I'm sure the previous speakers before me did justice, so I'll not go into that rat hole of explaining what the difference is. Now, for this entire population, which by the way is sort of a minority population, it's a tribal population, right? So they're sort of protected by the government. These entire population, they are entitled to economic incentives by the government. Something called DBTs, which basically stands for the government gives them some money, and that entire money goes directly to the citizen where they can spend it for a specific use case, right? So if the government says you can spend 100 rupees on buying milk, then you will get a card which only lets you buy 100 rupees of milk, right? And that's what we've done with our platform, right? So we've made so many components to it where blockchain is just the foundational layer. So we're tracking every record of that which is happening in terms of money transaction on the blockchain. But everything else, the application layer, the identity creation, the approval process to issuing those money transactions to the platform, all of that is now being sort of controlled on the blockchain foundational layer that we built. In addition to that, the government also has a lot of schemes. So schemes, as I understand, they are essentially additional economic incentives. So you may have some sort of like a Kisan Yojana Andolan, which basically enables 10,000 rupees to every farmer in the district, right? With our software, the public sector administrative of the District of Gadchiroli, they can basically come to a software, pick 10 people they want to give 10,000 rupees to, and just hit enter, right? As soon as they hit that entire record is done, committed to the blockchain, and people receive their money directly. So it's very simple. And tomorrow, if somebody wants to audit the District of Gadchiroli's office as well, they can just go and instantaneously see how the money was allocated, whom the money was allocated as well. So the citizen identity is something that I'm also very proud of, and really helped us create a lot of impact. Helping people get the money that they're entitled to, making sure that there is no fraud by any bad players in the entire process is something that I'm also very proud of. Lastly, I think there's a blessing as well as a sort of a challenge with our product, where when you have a one size shoe fits all, sometimes nobody wants it, right? Our product can be adopted for education certificates, skill certificates, NOCs, work orders, shop licenses, industry licenses, any digital document that you can think of which has value. Any digital record that you can think of which requires verification, authentication, our software can easily consume that and help you make them verifiable, tamper-proof, and shareable instantaneously, right? And it can help your organization track who's using them, who's verifying them, when they're doing, right? So this is where I'd encourage sort of creativity of your individuals in the call who are watching this presentation, and try to connect the dots, like, hey, which kind of documents, credentials, records that my organization is giving to its stakeholders? What is the importance of that? What is the importance of what happens if those documents are being um, um, sort of forged and people are doing illicit activities on it, right? So how can we prevent that? That's where we come in and we help you address that. I have one more slide, and I'll try not to spend too much time on this, because I think, I was watching the presentation before me. They've done a fantastic job on educating how things are being used, and essentially what are the use cases in the telecom sector. But I hope my previous comments have helped you do that. Essentially, any sort of digital record prevention and supply chain traceability is something that we can really help you solve for your organizations as well. With that, I'd like to just again thank everybody for listening to me. I hope what I shared was valuable. I encourage you to reach out to our website, www.zapple.technology. I think you'll find a lot of good information, more information on our use cases. You can also reach out to me directly at rishabh@zapple.technology. I've put in my number. My number is 735-331-5506. We're also available on Twitter and LinkedIn in case those are the platforms that you'd like to reach out to us as well. We'd love to help you and define a strategy on how you can adopt your first blockchain product and transition it from a POC to a production environment altogether. With that, I will pass the mic back to Siddharthi, and over to you.
Thank you, Rishabh-ji. It was wonderful session showcasing the implemented use cases in government sector in India. Dear participants, we have come to end of the technical session, and the floor is now open for the question and answers. Anyone having question, you may raise your hand. We will give you the presentation right so that you can unmute yourself and ask your question. Meanwhile, I will take up the questions which we have already received in chat box. So the initial questions are from Arvind ji. You may like to answer these questions. The first one is from Atul Karelia sir, which is governing body for blockchain protocol. Is there any body for that?
Okay, so I think if you carefully observe any public blockchain network, typically there is no governing body as such. It's a community of developers, a developer community who manages the protocol and make sure they get into consensus and drive it. So it's more public driven. But if you look at enterprise blockchain, especially every enterprise blockchain network has a consortium governing body, and that consortium is led by the predominant stakeholder who gets benefited or who who has more interactions, multiple interactions with the stakeholders. So it is very much consortium driven. And obviously people don't use the word regulator there. Rather, it's more consortium governance body rather than a regulatory governance body in enterprise ecosystems.
Yeah, thank you, Arvindji. Next question is, if government makes blockchain technology mandatory for financial institutions for each digital transactions, whether present menace of cyber frauds come down?
Okay, so I think, so again, if you look at the cyber attacks and all, right? See, only for minimizing the cyber attacks, people using blockchain is also something a wrong notion, because for data within organization, scope of organization, you can still use the standard cryptographic security protocols to protect it. But any data which has cross-organizational, multi-organizational access point, right? Multiple writers in an ecosystem. Going for blockchain's data immutability as a feature is a value proposition. Okay, because we have been using the ecosystem for quite some time. Any critical data which should never be tampered or which has very criticality, put on blockchain. Okay. Otherwise, the traditional centralized IT systems are good. They have been serving for quite some time. So blockchain will not replace the centralized IT systems. Rather, centralized IT systems will load or will push data into blockchain. Okay. So blockchain will sit on top of multiple centralized IT systems. Now, say, for example, as the previous speaker was talking about the certificate issuance. Now, the certificate itself can be in the university server, but the hash of the document and the data integrity of the certificate can be assured on a public blockchain like Polygon, like what they did. So I think it's an interplay, like you decide what should be off chain and what should be on chain. I hope that answers.
Yeah, sure. Thank you. There is another question, Arvindji. How will reclaim of data will happen post blockchain implementation, which is already in hand of service provider? Right now, whatever data is there, how it can be reclaimed by the individual?
Okay. So I think, see, the point is in Web3, again, you are talking with respect to public blockchains. Everyone has a wallet. A wallet is a public private key pair, like how we have username, password. With every blockchain network, people have a wallet, okay, which is again a private key and public key, which is hexadecimal numbers. Now, the point is when you are engaging a service provider, you connect your wallet to it. Okay. And whatever your activity or your certain data points like data logs, they may capture, but the asset ownership, like say you have certain NFTs, some images, some stocks or tokens, okay, stocks as tokens, or say the verifiable credential. Now, say for example, university issued a verifiable credential to against a wallet. Okay. Now, even if the university goes off or I mean, even if some of the things happen, still the wallet holds the metadata and the access point. If at all the certificate is stored on interplanetary file system, kind of distributed storage system. So it depends on the architecture, but the point is the data or the integrity of the data or the ownership of the data is on chain and is associated with wallet, but not the service provider. Service provider is only doing certain services or access points for you as an interface for you to utilize that data. That's it. Okay.
Yes, Arvindji, thank you. Next question is whether present GST network uses blockchain technology. I think this is related with presentation of Sunil ji. So if Sunil ji is present, if you would like to answer this.
Sir, yes.
Yes, Sunil ji, the question is whether present GST network uses blockchain technology.
Yes.
And also, can you please highlight probable MNP frauds taking place globally? In India, all the 4 TSPs should become partners in blockchain use cases for fraud deterrent MNP. So related with MNP and related frauds, right?
So I'll go one by one.
Yeah.
Yes, currently GST is not using blockchain. It is not being implemented, and it is currently on a centralized system. The second one, the possible MNP frauds are like I already discussed, SIM swapping, okay, unauthorized porting from one network to other network. So what will happen generally? Insider fraud can also happen in the MNP. So wherein my friend sits in Airtel, I will just tell him that for the time being, you port me from Jio to Airtel. And again, I'll port. So this is unauthorized porting. These things can happen and are happening actually. So these are possible frauds. SIM swapping. I swap my identity of the SIM with another identity. So these are all different kinds of frauds. And yes, it is rightly said that all the operators, if they come on the platform in as a consortium together, definitely they can eliminate this MNP kind of frauds. I will not say purely on a public blockchain, rather on a permission blockchain.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sunil ji, for answering. The next question is related with auditing authority. In case of blockchain, who will be the auditing authority, or no audit is required at all?
So auditing is something which is very much required, even when we are putting, because a third party who is actually looking at the data, we are not telling that we are moving away completely from the audit. Rather, the trust that is given to the auditor is enhanced with this blockchain. Rather, we can just trust the data that we are providing to the auditor. For example, if I am actually giving any kind of a document to the auditor telling that this is a data, how can he trust? If it is being deployed on a blockchain, then eventually it can be trusted. That's the property of what a blockchain technology provides. So enhancing the further layer, additional permission, additional protection. That's what we are telling here as for the audit.
Yes. There is one more question, Sunil ji. If all the telecom service providers are to come on blockchain to prevent frauds, etc., what will be the cost implications?
Yes, so it's a very good question. Thank you for asking this. In fact, wherever I have been traveling across the globe, everywhere two things are being looked at. One is the cost optimization, and the second is the optimization of the resources. While both of these are ensured by blockchain, there will be certain costs that are involved when all these companies are coming into a consortium on a blockchain network. But we need to look from the other angle. Now, let us assume that a telecom operator is uh, burning some X amount of rupees for a third party for doing one kind of a reconciliation or fraud management or any other MNP, whatever the use cases that we discuss. Let us imagine currently they are having X amount of rupees being spent on that particular thing. When each of these, all the telecom players are coming into a consortium and forming a network, eventually this cost is always less than what they are paying to that particular vendor, or they are depending on that third party is always less. The implication, definitely at the starting there will be a cost, but it should be looked as a reduction in the cost. It's not that cost will not be there. Cost will definitely be there, but it will be at a reduced cost. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for answering these queries.
Thank you.
I
Thank you.
request our participants to raise their hand if still there are any question, if they want to ask. I think there are no more hand raised, so we have come to end of this today's webinar session. On behalf of NTI PRIT, I would like to thank our guest speakers for engaging us in insightful and enjoyable sessions on blockchain, covering implementations and use cases. Thank you, Sunilji, thank you, Arvindji and Rishabhji for sparing your time and reaching out to us. Thanks. Special thanks to Shri Raju Sinha sir for inaugurating this webinar and for his constant guidance and support in organizing this webinar and other coming such webinars. And at the last but not the least, thanks to all the participants from industry academia, TEC, TRAI, TCIL, who have registered and joined today's session. Your support is always your support always encourages us to bring out some more events. Thank you, dear participants. With the permission of DG sir, now we can end the today's session.
Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Atul. And thank you all the participants. Hope you will be following our webinars further ahead.
Thank you, sir.